Hi, I'm Shronky Kong, and we're here to do the PRs. I'm here today with.
Ah,
Anyway, we're starting off today is with we're going to go backwards through the team list. So we're going to be starting with Cosmic Kyle 13, and I think since I have a different opinion, let's have T-Ball go first, then Gentle, then me.
yeah. We should sandwich you
Okay,
so your opinion sounds
so
worse.
yes, sandwich him, gang up on him. Okay, anyway, I think Kyle's team is really cool. First off, the speed tiers look really good. You have that a Celigore with probably one of the fastest mons with Unburden. It basically becomes unoutspeedable, and like the slow side of his team is also really good with like Iron Hands and like Iron Hands and Iron Hands. But also, you have that really powerful size spam in DD and Gardevoir. And in DD, in Natdex, is actually really OP because it can run both Expanding Force and Trick Room, not on the same set, but you can mix it up, and it's really scary. And overall, his team is just really incredible. Also, nice type chart, not the best, but nice. You can give your hot take, Radio.
I was going to have Gentle go first,
I
then
could, I
me
can,
give
I can
my
go. I
different
can go.
opinion.
So,
Yeah, you
in my
can go.
opinion, it would be wrong to think of this team as a Psy Spam team first. It's a team that has 2 Psychic types and 2 Psychic Seed Abusers, which is I don't really consider the subtitle a Psychic Seed Abuser. We didn't get it for that reason, but I mean, like the Psychic Seed Abuser I'm talking about is Corviknight. So the real idea of this team is just like like just general offense that has tail room aspects to it. And Excelgor is really good at enabling that by either clicking Rain Dance for Scarf Dracovish, because yes, it's faster than Scarf Dracovish, it's stupid. Or you can Final Gambit something, get rid of something annoying. I think it just has like a lot of general utility, and it's sort of focused around like doing a lot of early game damage with stuff like Dracovish and the I can't remember his name, Iron Volcarona, and then closing out with your thicker Pokemon that are able to like withstand whatever they have left, like Gardevoir, Iron Hands, and Corviknight. And yes, I know Gardevoir stats don't make it look very bulky, but it's kind of got the Fluttermane effect where its stats are just so high that you don't have to really invest in the special attack that much for it to get the job done. So it can like feel deceptively bulky.
Okay, I'm going to do my take on it. Okay, so fundamentally, I think this team is a kind of a weird crossroads where it doesn't do anything as well as it really wants to. I don't think this Ice Spam mode is super good because Gardevoir has a really awkward speed tier where it's not particularly good in Trick Room, and this team is not having super easy time setting Tailwind. Corviknight is bulky, but it's also something that where Tailwind can be stopped on it relatively easily. I also think the Trick Room mode, Iron Hands is a ridiculously good Pokemon, but it's not a Trick Room sweeper. And fundamentally, I think if you're just going to the Trick Room mode with only Iron Hands effectively, then it's just not that good. Like, I love Iron Hands. It's good at countering Trick Room moves, but it's not a Trick Room mon particularly in of itself, similar to something like King Gambit. So to me, this team kind of puts itself in a place where it's like, Iron Moth, Weavile, Corviknight, these are all mons that I genuinely consider good, but I don't think they're ever doing enough because I don't think the structure of it is fundamentally enough to get this team where it needs to be. The E4 stuff doesn't work quite as well as it wants to, especially because I think Gardevoir, as Gentle also agrees, is kind of a late game E-Force user, where I think this game really wants to get E-Force Psychic Terrain up early, especially so it can abuse stuff like Final Gambit, Excelgor. So I think it's really hard to maintain that train consistently to a late game position when Indeedee is really pulling double duty to get Trick Room set up, to try and enable all of the mons they have, a lot of that kind of thing. So I just think team has a really difficult time actually executing the strategies that it's necessarily intended to do. So to me, I think it's okay. It definitely has tools, and I think with good play, which ultimately for a lot of these teams, good play makes the difference.
Yeah.
But I just think that there's going to be a lot of places to struggle with this.
Okay, so just real quick, I have used Iron Hands in Noterra before, and I've seen it used in Noterra plenty of times, and I would disagree with saying it's not a Trick Room Sweeper. Probably because, like, if you use a standard VGC set with, like, an Assault Vest, yeah, it's not the greatest Trick Room Sweeper. It's it does big damage. It'll probably get 1 or 2 KOs in Trick Room, but it's not going to sweep. But the set that sweeps in Trick Room is either Swords Dance or Belly Drum. Those sets are really good at sweeping in Trick Room, especially if you're running, like, Earthquake or Rock Slide, so you have, like, the spread damage on Belly Drum sets. It's not, again, like the like single-handed like this will make your team a Trick Room team. It's more about like you can't not respect the Trick Room mode of this team. You have to prep to it to some degree, and I think that helps a little bit. And I think in general the amount of offense on this team is sort of like well balanced with the amount of bulk it has, and Iron Hands and Dracovish are really good at playing off that. And I do understand where you're coming from when you say like Final Gambit needs Psychic Seed, but I don't really think Excelgor needs like Psychic Seed to click Final Gambit. It's just really, really fast.
Yeah, I mean, I still just, to me, it's like the way I'd prep for this, for no matter what mode I think is coming would probably just be like a Sash Taunt user, and I feel like that helps shut down so much of the stuff that this is going for. That to me, it's just like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's like multiple fake out users, so a Sash Taunt user would also have to either be fake out immune or protected by something that's fake out, and Weavile is one of the fastest fake out users, so I think like if
but your only ways to set
mode,
Trick Room are either in DD female, which fake out I can ignore then, or you're just going raw Gardevoir Mega into Trick Room, which I think is a bad positioning wise.
Yeah, that's true. But again, the point of the Trick Room mode isn't to be like a main mode. It's more to just like force you to at least.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think Sash Taunt also goes really well into say Corviknight to stop Tailwind or multiple other things that I want, or just to stop in DD in general. So to me, it's like that's not something where it's like necessarily super hard to prep for that. The Trick Room mode isn't forcing a lot of different prep for me, which is the main concern when you're talking about multiple modes.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. So where do we think this team is rating? I want Radio to say it first, since he probably disagrees the most.
I don't know. I think like I'll give it B+ here because I do think it has pretty solid tools to work with. I just don't think all of those tools are put together in a way that's the best.
Is Tampa Bay Toxtricity? Whose is that? Unfortunately, the logos are broken, so I have to remember it. Okay, it is Kyle. I think mid A tier is where I'd put it as like a compromise, because I would either put this at the bottom of A+ or the top of A, but I'd be willing to go low A tier. I don't know if I'm willing to go as low as B+. I feel like there's just too many good tools.
Yeah, I'm with Gentle here. This team has actually it does have a lot of options. As you said, like I agree that Sash Taunt might like give it some trouble, but like it's not impossible for him to deal with. You know, like I feel like it's still very manageable. Like for example, you could like break Sash with like Acid Spray. A Celigor who's just stupidly fast that you don't even need Unburden like most of the time. It's only when you need to outspeed those absurd mons that you need to run Unburden, really.
Weavile also has like really fast taunt, so you can just taunt the taunter.
Yeah,
which is fun, which is not necessarily the best strategy for setting Trick Room, but for setting Tailwind, that's actually not bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can compromise with like mid A.
Would you be okay with that, Radio?
I'm being oppressed, but I'll accept it.
Oppressed gamer. All right, we're moving on to Chaos. T-Ball started, then I went, so I guess it's my turn.
Sure.
All right, so getting into things I like about this team, Gallade Mega. That's a pretty good Mega for the tier it's in. I think it's, I don't know, it's not amazing, but it's definitely all right. You can already tell I don't like this team. Then you've got like Archaliodon, that's a pretty good mon. Walking Wake, that's a great mon for A tier. I think Walking Wake's one of the better A tiers. And then like, you know, you have the fish in B tier. That's a pretty good B tier pick. So like there's a lot of interesting like value picks here. But then like where's the weather? Where's the weather starter? You have like two different versions of weather teams. You have Venusaur Arcanine Sun with like Walking Wake, and then you have like your Walking Wake, you know, Fish and Dracovish mode for like rain. And like yeah, having dual weather teams can work, but usually it's because one of your weathers is auto and the other one is Prankster. But this team is entirely reliant on Grafaiai to set both. And I just don't think that like it's a very great idea to build your entire like team around being enabled by one Pokemon who's really frail. Like yeah, it's got fast Prankster moves, but like it will die after clicking one of them. I just don't think it's like an incredibly reliable way to build a team. And I think this team's really gonna struggle to like get what it wants done. And also worth mentioning, Gallade Mega is a terrible Trick Room setter, so this team is like a really bad Trick Room mode.
Yeah, I mean, I would generally agree with everything Gentle said. Dual weather is always like cool conceptually, but it's one of those things where I think in practice it's always just kind of wacky because like Walking Wake is good for A tier, but it's really I don't think it's a good linchpin mon to be like basically centering the team's concept around. So for me, it's just kind of like, eh. And then again, also as Gentle, there's just kind of a lot of stuff here where it's like. I get the reason why they would pick it. Florges, Pikachu, and Avalugg as low tier picks are like understandable, but it's just not something where it's like I don't think any of them are necessarily getting the real value there, because it's like, why would you just not bring your core mons here? I don't see there's not a ton of matchups outside of very specific stuff where I wouldn't just rather be trying to blow through things.
Yeah. Also,
then also
sorry.
It's super reliant on Grafai, which, okay, as someone who was also super reliant on Grafai for their last league, I don't think that's a great idea.
You had Pelipper at least.
Yeah. All right. So T-ball.
Yeah, I would say that your points make a lot of sense. This team feels a bit all over the place to me as well. Like it wants to do so many things, but none of it is like fully realized. Like it feels like a jack of all trades, but it has a mastery over nothing. It can do many things technically, but it does none of them extremely well, which is probably this team's biggest hindrance. So, are we moving on to the tiering?
Yeah, just one real quick point out something that none of us mentioned. Their only fake out and follow me user is Pikachu. So, like,
Yeah.
Pikachu.
I mean, Pikachu's cool and pretty good for the tier 10. However, it is frail. It is incredibly frail, and you're either holding a light ball or you're holding a focus sash, and either way, it's gonna be
It's
missing
probably
some of its
gonna be
value.
Sash.
You're either gonna get O-code or you're gonna do no damage and be like non-threatening.
Yeah, because like this team doesn't have that like tailwind speed control for Pikachu to light ball and blow up things.
And I
Like,
really
so you're probably stuck with like Focus Sash support.
I really do not like the Earthquake weakness either. That's a really big deal for me. Like, especially on a weather team,
True.
because ground types are just generally like, if you support a ground type correctly, it's usually pretty good into weather attackers, unless your name is Ludicolo. So yeah, I don't know. I would say C tier for this team. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like
D for
C tier.
chaos.
There's a lot of like high value mons. They're just not at all used well.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay, what? Let me consult my file explorer to find which one of them is chaos. Oh no, this is gonna take forever.
What?
Oh, okay, he's the Screamtail one. So this one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to T-ball, starting us with Izzy and Bryo. Well, starting with
I think
Bryo.
It's me starting because T-ball started.
Yeah,
Radio.
you're right. I actually just like radio, and I wanted him to suffer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying that I think I love all of the mons on this team, so this hurts me because I don't think they were put together in a great way. Because like you can kind of play balance with this team, but you have two mons, Gouging Fire and Screamtail, which I think both really, really want booster energy, which is already annoying to start with. So you have that. Then I also think you just have a lot of mons that are like pretty good, but I don't necessarily see great connections between them. Because to me, it's like you're basically gonna have to play balance every single fucking game with this. But I don't think these are mons where it's like the bulk, the typingers are all like in a place where I really, really love it. Because there's just a lot of moves. Like this team has literally like one real ice resist, which is just annoying. Because it's like if you're playing a balance team, you want to have switch-ins to common attacking types. And just not consistently having that is really rough. Because to me, I think if you looked at this team's like spread on a sheet, it's not particularly weak to anything, but it doesn't have a great way to just constantly have switch-ins for resists. And to me, on a balanced team, that just isn't good.
Yeah, on the topic of resist, there are no fairy resist here. So I think, like, as Radio just said, not having, like, the ice resistance are, well, quite few here. It's just Cryogonal and Rotom Wash. But I think the lack of a fairy resistance is probably even worse. Like they chose Duraludon as their steel type and Gouging Fire as their fire type, which these types usually do resist fairy, but the dragon type just doesn't help. On Duraludon, I don't think that Duraludon really works that well on this team. I think grabbing another steel type would actually benefit them more. But other than that, I think like this team's speed tiers are actually pretty. I wouldn't say that they're good actually, because like the higher side of their speed tiers are actually pretty well with like Lopunny and like you've got your booster mons, but like at the lower end, I don't think this team does that well. And especially as Radio said, since this is a balanced team, I think having both a good way to just go fast and a good, at least a decent like tail, not tail, trick room mode would actually benefit this team a lot, which kind of this team doesn't really have that because their trick room setter is what Screamtail, Abra. Really, like no, I don't think that's helping. That's helping them.
Yeah, I agree with most of what was said. I was going to mention the fairy weakness, is why I highlighted it. I think that being weak to fairy is one of those things where it's like, if you're weak to fairy, it's fine as long as you have like a really solid resist, but having no resist is always really scary. I do think that like gouging isn't nearly as reliant on booster as Screamtail is, but it is still like a big, you're definitely shooting yourself in the foot by using both. I think all the mons on their own are really like solid picks. Like I think Torn Key is a really good pick. I think like Spectrier and Bunny are really solid for the tiers they're in. Rotom and Tangrowth, that makes for a really solid core with the Gouging Fire. I just feel like none of these ideas are tied well together. Also, I feel like Loki, you're never bringing Obstagoon. I get the ideas that it has Defiant, but like, I just feel like it has way too much overlap with what Lopunny wants to do. I just think like, especially with like generic normal types, it's oftentimes hard to justify bringing both if they have similar stats or similar roles. And I think it's kind of just a wasted pick. And I also think Duraludon is the same thing, where it's like, it's very hard to justify bringing this. Because like if it was just a steel type, it would make sense. You'd be like, oh, Eviolite steel type, it can eat hits, but it doesn't really have that. So I feel like at least a couple of the picks are just dead in the water. Same thing with Marshtomp and Abra. I didn't really mention those, but it's kind of self-evident. Yeah, I'd say this team like really struggles with direction, but there's still a lot of like good meat on the bones here.
Nom nom.
Do not eat the bones. We're doing whose team?
Brave 12, which is Tasmania Talonflames.
Yes, okay. How do you feel about B tier?
B? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Where would you have put it in on your own? Just curious.
Probably C. I don't like balanced teams that lack lots of good resists.
I understand that. I think it's just like there's so many solid options here that like, yes, they all fight each other, but if you choose one of the options to go with, at least that one option will be pretty good.
Yeah, but to me, it's just like, what does this team do to like Flutter Mane?
I mean, yeah. I guess Scarf
I think their fast modes. I think their fast mode's actually pretty solid. It's just that the rest of it is a bit lackluster.
No, I'm actually in agreement with I'm in agreement with Radio here, where it's like if you don't play balance with this, you're just gonna get evaporated because a lot of these mons are like barely bulky enough, and that bulk doesn't really work unless you're running bulk sets on them.
I mean, like screens, like booster screens with Screamtail and like
Screens
the
tail
fast
is bad
bang.
though. Screens tail is like a set that you run, not the main set. If you're running that as your main set, the team is having issues. I could see
is having issues.
yeah, but that's why I'm saying like I could definitely see it being C tier. I think I'm okay with bottom of B, and we'll see where we're at the end of the tier list.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that makes it actually T-Ball's turn for Izzy.
Yep. So, oh my goodness, look at this type chart. Delicious. Other than the ground type. But other than that, delicious. Okay, so Whimsicott Urshifu. Tailwind Urshifu is always cracked, no matter what, to be honest. Mega Diancie looks really fun. Like with Diamond Storm, I believe it's like a spread move, right?
Yeah,
it's a spread 100 move.
100 spread with 50% chance to raise your defense.
Yeah, that's like it's so cool. This team is so cool.
Oh, real quick,
and like it
raises your defense by 2, not by 1. So you get an iron defense.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
It's
yeah, gently.
Like,
no.
Overall, overall, like I think the fast mode for this team, like the tailwind mode, is actually pretty solid. You've got that like pretty solid base speed at 110 for Diancie, and like Urshifu, Meloetta, and maybe even Moltres, and yeah, absolutely Mamoswine. Like these mons just do a lot of damage out of the gate most of the time, and paired with Tailwind, this gives this team a lot of immediate pressure, and like you also have ways to handle like Trick Room because like you've got Quagsire, even though I think some of these people with me don't think Quagsire's real. Ampharos Mega is absolutely real though. Like for weeks that you want to like deal with Trick Room and you don't have the need to bring Mega Diancie, Mega Ampharos is definitely a very solid like Trick Room mon, even though this team probably doesn't want to utilize Trick Room most of the time, but hey, it could be a good mix-up. Aegislash is it has way more effective base stats than its like sheet says, which overall is it's just a ball of stats really. Aegislash is just a good ball of stats with a good type that kind of just sits there and can help you stall like, which helps your Trick Room matchup quite a lot in my opinion. And also again, the type chart is so delicious other than that ground type. And yeah, I think the ground type weakness is bad, as Gentle has mentioned earlier. Like ground is a pretty bad type to be weak to, but overall, I really like this team. It's the type chart's so delicious.
All right, so I also like type charts. However, it's not as big a deal to me as it is for T-Ball. I think having a good type chart is like one of those like boxes you check when you're making a team. It's like, oh, my team isn't like cripplingly weak to anything and has like resist everything. That's always good. I will never complain about that. But I think like what I like about this team is actually different. I like that this team has a bunch of just really good like mid and low tier value picks. Like I think War Turtle, Aegislash, Mamoswine, Magby, Moltres, and Meloetta are all pretty solid for the tiers they're in, and so is Mega Ampharos. And I also like that the Mega Ampharos provides like almost I think an exact resist difference for they're both weak to ground, but other than ground, it resists everything that Diancie Mega's weak to, so it makes prepping for both Megas a little more difficult than it would be otherwise. I think this team has like one major flaw, and that's that all of their like high tiers, their like both their S's and one of their A's is quad weak, which means that like in prep it's a little harder to keep everything alive. However, that's not really a huge problem for Whimsicott team because you can just click burr, you can just go like really fast and murder things. And I wouldn't like this nearly as much if it was Waterfoo, so I don't think that's like a flaw of the team. I think that it's actually like a smart decision to just run like Whimsicott with like a bunch of mons that have quad weaknesses because you can just give them Tailwind. So yeah, I would say this is like a really solid team. I don't really think there's any major flaws besides there's not really a great fake out user. You're stuck with War Turtle, which like don't get me wrong, War Turtle can fake out. It's just like not the best at it, and that's like pretty much the only flaw I see. I think the Trick Room mode is a lot more like real because I think Whimsicott's like a surprisingly good Trick Room setter. Prankster Trick Room doesn't really have that much utility except for like you can't get roared, which is funny. But yeah, it's more about like Meloetta Trick Room mode. I think is pretty decent only because of like Aegislash and Ampharos being able to carry it super hard.
I'm a little bit lower on the Trick Room mode. Aegislash is not a mon that I love in Trick Room because of the counter synergy with using King's Shield.
That's true, actually.
Because it makes your Aegislash a lot easier to take out. I also just don't think Ampharos Mega is like super good. Having used it last season wasn't really a lot of reason to bring. Yeah, basically. But to be fair, that's basically my only problem with the team. I do think the fake out thing is a little bit, but like you're running basically Whimsicott, which is the greatest lever of Covert Cloak that has ever existed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, oh well. So to me, I just think it's really good. Diancie, obviously, both forms are very useful, and being able to Mega into something that is suddenly very different and much more threatening is great. So I think all of their picks are great. There's a lot of just obvious like you can play linear with this and it'll just work. That's fine.
Yeah.
You have a lot of mons that are really annoying to try and deal with if you just because Whimsicott is like straight up the best Tailwind setter. Just trying to get through stuff when Urshifu single, Diancie Mega, and Mamoswine are like plowing through you is really annoying. And then you have great cleaner mons like Aegislash in the back that are just really annoying to deal with. So overall, I just think it's a great team.
Yeah. I think it's only kept out of S tier by the weaknesses to comment. Like the ground weakness does suck, but it only really matters if you're bringing Magby and Quillfish, which you're not doing 99% of the time, and Ampharos. But like the ground weakness kind of sucks. The 3 quad weaknesses kind of suck. Other than that, I would say it's like an S tier team, but those things keep it out of S for me.
Yeah, I do think there's a little bit of like a bit of like I would feel fine with steel types into this team.
Yeah, there's a bit of volatility for sure.
Which is a bit annoying, but because like if say versus something like Mamoswine, if you get like a Scarf Steel Mon in on this, I think that's really good. But it's playable around. I think they have the tools to deal with it.
Yeah, because Steel doesn't really have any good spread moves. War Turtle is actually quite a nice addition for this.
Make it rain, baby! Make it rain!
Yeah, the one Goldengo player.
But they have Urshifu.
Yeah,
The dark one.
Yeah, I mean, we're not really considering matchups when we do these. Well, maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's slightly considerate, where it's like maybe don't draft a rain team when 4 people have sun or something like that. But
there's one that we would consider it. I believe there's one team that's coming up eventually.
Yeah. But yeah,
I mean, I try and think about it more of archetypes, and just for this team, like it's not the resist thing just isn't as important to the type of team this is. So, like to me, while I think there are definitely ways to beat this that someone can identify and draft, I just think it's a good team all around. I would say A+.
Yeah, I agree. I think A+.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm willing to call it the best team so far because I haven't looked at all of them intentionally, but it's definitely up there. It's like at least top 3 off the top of my head. All right, moving on to Ray J and Jace. I believe it's Radio's turn to start.
It's your turn, Gentle.
No, okay. All right, so Ray J's team. Let's go over. I'm gonna start with the things I like because I want to take a different approach because I usually start with the negatives. Things I like. I think Illumise is pretty good for the tier. Tapu Lele is a great mon to build around. And Zapdos I also think is really good for the tier. Things I don't like. I don't think this team really uses Tapu Lele like at all. Like, yeah, you prio block for your Seismitoad, but Seismitoad's a C tier mon and Shiftry's a D tier mon, and they're there for a reason. You're like prio blocking for mons who don't super love prio blocking. E-Force Jirachi is a thing, but 100 special attack just does not hit hard. Like, you need to invest a lot, and that kind of cuts into what Jirachi's good at, which is like clicking really bulky follow me. Not to say that like devalues Jirachi, but it's just notable. I think this team, kind of similar to the team we talked about with Dialga, is like what's his name, Pickle's team. That team kind of also has the same problem of like being super reliant on their Tailwind setter to like actually have good speed tiers. This one's a little less so, but 3 100s, 105 being your absolute max it's kind of rough. It's not like undoable for sure. I definitely think it's a solid team. I just think it has like pretty notable flaws.
Yeah, I feel the same way. To me, this is a team where it's like it really got itself clearly, because as someone who ran Psy Spam Rain, I think you really need a lot of like bullshit stuff to go with it. And this team, I just think, has a lot of decent mons that are like pretty good at doing like bulky and stuff, but they're not really Rain Psy Spam stuff. They're not stuff where it can blow through someone. And to me, when you're at that kind of weird crossroads with it, you're kind of like, oh, why did I draft these mons then if they're not doing that bullshit? So to me, I don't know. I don't think it's a great team. It obviously has like clear things it can do, and I think they're getting actually pretty solid value out of their low tiers, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't think the high tiers are carrying their weight as enough. But again, Illumise is still a very good pick that can enable some really stupid stuff, and they do just have solid mons. It's just you're going to have to play a bit more balancy with them than I think the archetypes that this is basing itself on really want to play like.
Yeah, overall, I do agree that it doesn't really fully utilize its Psy Spam Rain like identity. One thing I do like is that they have a prankster user with their Rain setter, because it helps like mitigate like manually replacing your own weather overall. Like Illumise is a pretty good pick. The natural speed tiers are something I don't really like, to be honest. I think having 105 being your fastest speed tier is. I mean, you have Prankster Tailwind, yes, but it's going to be that and Seismitoad in Rain. Shiftry, I guess, maybe during some matchups. I will say, I like Zapdos in Rain. Zapdos in Rain is awesome. You get Thunder and Hurricane, and I think that is really cool. Also, you have a bunch of like mons that are stuck in the base 100 speed tier, and I think having that speed tier overlap, like for 2 mons, maybe that's probably fine. But for 3 mons to have that same speed tier, and Miss Magius is basically in the same speed tier, let's be honest, and Haxorus. Like, it's not really the greatest thing to have on a team. Another thing that Gentle and I have discussed, like based on first impressions, is that Tauros can actually be replaced by its combat form instead of using its blaze form, because it's a rain team. You're probably not going to click your fire moves, and combat form is simply a tier lower, which would give you more points to work with. If this team could do that, I'm not sure about the budgeting. But yeah, overall, I think it's a solid team with like pretty like obvious flaws.
Yeah, I mean, just one more thing that I forgot to mention. The low speed tiers are also bad. So like having bad high speed tiers isn't usually that terrible, but like having that and like 70 being your lowest realistic speed tier that's pretty rough.
True.
Also, I think Shiftry's a pretty bad fake out user generally because you're giving up a slot on your like weather abuser to run fake out, which is okay if you're a mon like Ludicolo who just wants to click Hydro Pump every time, but Shiftry definitely doesn't want to click like Solar Beam. He wants to be clicking, Sucker Punch and like those sorts of moves. So I think it's a little bit less good than like something like Ludicolo. Yeah, I think we've covered everything though. All right, so where are we thinking?
I'd say this
I
is
personally think B.
Yeah,
B.
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes the perfect use of Illumise, really.
Is it better or worse than
I'd say better.
TNT?
Well, we were considering TMT for C tier. I don't think this team could be considered for
True.
C tier.
Right.
All right, B tier it is. Oh yeah, I didn't mention it, so I'm gonna mention it right in the middle in case anyone is curious. We had a problem with the Palkia doc where there was link decay on all of the logos, so these links do not work anymore. So I can't get the images. So I had to go find all the images from the logo submit channel. So that's why we're using the logos instead of the screenshots like we did for Dialga.
Yeah.
All right, now it's Shirley your turn.
It is my turn. Okay, so we're on to Overlord Jace's team, the Cincinnati Beartechs. I have very mixed feelings on this because I think Frigoraph, Ursaluna, Celesteela is just like a thing it just sounds lovely in general. So I'm like, that I think is already great. But then we get into a lot of the other mons, and I just think they're kind of weird picks. Hoopa Unbound is very cool because having Protect Breaking is very cool. But like, I don't know. I can see it working, but I just don't love a lot of what's going on here. Aerodactyl Mega is pretty good, but not like amazing. Garganackle is a very stallish one, which like you already have Celesteela. I don't think you really need to do that, especially because I don't think the team's like indexing on that a whole lot. It just happens to have two mons that kind of do that. So it's like that can be a really annoying pair, but I don't think they're like a really good pair in that sense. Then a lot of the lower tier stuff is just like, okay. I mean, like Arctivish, Bellable, Glyzopod are all things that like technically can do stuff, but I just don't love any of it. There's not a lot of reason to like really move outside the top mons here. And especially because like, I don't know, when you have that, especially with mons that all have like realistically fairly clear strategies to them, I don't think there's a lot of room for movement outside of what these mons have as their like basic sets. That's not good to me. Luckily, those basic sets are very good, but it's just a team that I don't think is particularly hard to prep for. So that lowers it down a lot for me. In the end, I think like for me, I'd probably put it at something like B+. I just think the fundamental strategies here are too strong because they're really annoying. But I just don't think they're like great. And they're fairly easy to prep for, which is just not wonderful.
Yeah, I can agree with you here. Like Ursaluna Farigiraf is just really powerful overall, but like I agree that Celesteela and Garganackle don't really have to both be here, considering you're spending two of your like higher tiers. Garg is like A, right?
B,
Oh,
I
it's
think.
B.
Yeah.
Okay, but still, it's like one of your basically core mons. You're spending two of them on potentially doing the same thing. Like that's some role overlapping here. Like I think Corsola works perfectly well for this team because it's a really low tier. It's like an E tier, I believe. So like having it pair with maybe Celesteela would work for like a perfectly fine like stall mode. But I don't think you need as much tools for that one mode that most people will probably just prep a bunch of taunt and like covert cloaks for. Another problem I have with this team is that speed tier gap between Mega Aerodactyl and Hoopa. Like I get this team wants to do Trick Room, but I think just focusing all of your speed tiers on that side of the field, it doesn't. It makes prepping for it easier because it's very linear. Like that's all you can do. You basically can only do Trick Room. Like maybe you can do Tailwind Aerodactyl with with Hoopa, but like it's your mega slot. You want to do something more than just set Tailwind, probably. Uh, Not saying Mega Aerodactyl being a Tailwind setter is bad. It's just that I feel like if you had a bit more speed tiers, like maybe something within like the hundreds and the 120s, then your team would probably be slightly better.
Yeah, I mean, I think this falls into like one of the classic pitfalls of making a hard trick room team, which is thinking that a hard trick room team means only trick room, and it definitely does not. Hard trick room means that that's your main strategy, but like when you're, especially in draft, you need to actually have like fast alternative things, not only so that you can like make prep harder, but so that if you can't trick room for whatever reason, let's say they just have like, for instance, this team would really struggle with imprisoned Bronzong. So if they had something like that, you know, like something that specifically counters what you have going for you, it's just basically impossible to win unless you have like a really solid alternative mode. I don't think this has that. I understand, you know, oh, Ursulin is like moderately fast in Tailwind with Aerodactyl, but like that's not a great reason, especially because I think that like Ursulin at turn 1 is like really non-threatening, so you're going to bare minimum be wasting a Tailwind turn just setting it and protecting. I just think that this team really struggles to do anything other than Trick Room, and that means that like it's like T-Ball said, it's incredibly linear. You can just shut down Trick Room and you win. So for that reason, I don't think this is a B plus team. I understand. I understand where you're coming from, Radio, when you say that. Like, yes, I think that the core is incredibly strong. I just don't think the core is supported at all with like what's around it. So how do we feel?
Like the Trick Room mode is really good, but this is B.
Yeah, I think it's just
This
too
is
easy to
B
prep
for
for.
me.
It's just too easy to prep for.
This is Ace is where are their team?
This is
Beartex.
yeah.
Beartex.
Okay.
Cincinnati Beartex.
So I would be okay with B plus tier. I do kind of agree with Radio where it's like the core is too strong to not be B plus tier. I just think like if I don't know, it feels like the worst direction you could have gone with the core for me.
I think the top of B would be fine.
I'm gonna let Radio decide because I would be totally fine with bottom of B plus or top of B.
I think bottom of B plus again. I think there's something to be said for is like it. You know, you there's only so you can prep for anything, but you know everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
There's only so much.
And then Guts Facade is definitely like one of the biggest punches in the mouth that you can get. Yeah, I think top of bottom of B plus is very fair.
Okay.
All right, so we're on to Mana and OK and D. Is it?
Okay, that's T-Ball.
Yeah.
My turn?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So OK's team. So this is a very weird team to say the least. It has a lot of gimmicky stuff. Like you can see like Moody Smeargle with like Muck, and you've got Flamigo Co-Star. Like it's very weird for sure. Other than the gimmicks, this team feels very mediocre to me, to be honest. It has a lot of roles that it seems to be doubling up on. Like, why do you need both Kafagrigus and Dustclops? Like, both of them are trick room setters that can burn things, and that's probably their main job. And I don't see both of them being here to be necessary. You also have like Aldino, which is another trick room setter. Like, I know this team probably likes trick room. Its speed tiers are relatively low, but you just have way too many mons that kind of do the same thing. I do like Togekiss here as like a general utility belt where like you can run so many different sets with Togekiss. It helps this gimmicky style of team. And I am a big Entei fan. Like you get to use E-Speed in your Trick Room, which is always pretty solid, having priority in a usually Trick Room focused team, which I feel like this team kind of is. Well, it kind of isn't at the same time. It's more just a gimmick team. Like it's just so weird, and like I don't think 100 base speed being your fastest speed tier is good enough. You don't have like your regular like trick room sweepers. What's Audino's offense? It's really not good.
I
It's
think it's
base
120.
80. You're not sweeping
Wait,
anything.
really? That is better than that. Oh god.
It has 80 special attack.
Oh,
Yeah, it has AT special attack. It's not sweeping anything. Like, this team probably just takes too much time setting up. If there's a team that can just go boom, you're screwed. And yeah, I don't know. I don't like I know it's a gimmick team. It has a bunch of funny gimmicks with Moody Muck and stuff, but like with an objective standpoint, I don't like this team. Subjectively, I think it's really funny, but like
yeah, of course you do.
objectively speaking, I don't think this team is that great.
Yeah, to bounce off that, there's like first of all, they don't have any resist to flying or rock. That sucks. They but all of their support mons like Tapu Bulu, Togekiss, and Audino, like some of their best supports are all weak to poison, which is a little frustrating. It just means like a lot of your mons are gonna be hit with the same things. I think this team is like really all in on gimmicks, and then Taunt and Haze are both really good in draft, which means that this team is just not gonna be able to do anything. It kind of suffers from the same thing as the last team we talked about as well, where it's like you can't just make a Trick Room team only Trick Room. It needs to have actual other modes, and I think even worse than the last team, this team struggles with that. I don't think there's much more to say about it. It's a very simple reason that it's not good in my opinion. It just it's too hopeful. I guess the best way to put it. I think you're just like hoping your opponent doesn't prep for your cheese, and if they do, you lose.
It's a stupid gimmick team.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm moving on.
All right. Are we putting it in the? Are we putting it in C tier?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
is this the
yes.
Grumpig team? I think this is the Grumpig team.
Yeah.
I believe
Grumpig
so.
Gaming.
Yeah. Well, they have Grumpig as their mascot pick, so there you go. All right, my turn to start.
Yeah.
All right, so this is Mana. I believe they go by a different name on the server. Let me go check.
They go by Peppers?
Yeah, Peppers. That's what it is. I'm just gonna say Peppers because I enjoy saying that more than Mana. This is
Peppa Pig.
This is a Peppers team. Okay. A lot of these pairings are really solid. Like I think Eggy Saisan is really good. Like Eggy Victini are probably two of the best Saisan mons you can get. So having Psychic Drain and Sun are both really cool. Crobat is a bit iffy, but at least you have a fast mon, right? Like we've been complaining about the high tiers, like the high ends of the speed tier not being high enough. So at least you have something up there. And then like Weezing Gigas is like all right. I guess for being a C tier, they're all right value. It kind of like contradicts the rest of your team, but they're there. And then like Arctizzle, I don't know. You need a Slow King. You need another expanding force user and another Trick Room setter. And like Trapinch is fine. I don't really have a problem with like Trapinch or Lapras. They're whatever. I just feel like this team is like going in too many directions and trying to do too much, which can be an asset if you balance it perfectly. I just don't think this balances it perfectly. I feel like there's too much anti-synergy going on. I just feel like it's a little directionless. Is like the best way to put it. It's not as bad as the other like the other team that had like everything is reliant on Grafai syndrome, but it's kind of like 3 pairs of 2 mons rather than a cohesive team.
Yeah, in my opinion, okay, so I do kind of agree with that. I do see where you're coming from. However, I do think there is genuine merit. I think they got a lot of value out of their low tier picks, which I think is cool because Venonat, Lapras, Executor, and even Trapinch, I think are actually pretty solid value, especially for this team. But the main thing that I have a problem with is that I don't think Indeedee Mail is right here at all. Your prior rocking doesn't work on 2 of your better mons, Charizard, Y, Crobat, and then even with Weezing, Galar, and Regigigas. So it's like, I don't see the point in having this here. I do think that a lot of the cores are very strong, though, especially stuff like Charizard, Mega, Victini is a very common core, Weezing, Gigas, obviously. However, I do think Weezing works with a lot more of this team than I think you're giving her credit for. Charizard Mega only needs to set Sun once. Weezing can enter the field with Sun already up, and it doesn't matter. I think a lot of times with stuff like Rillaboom and Weather, you can actually get away with having Weezing despite relying on those abilities because you only need to set them once. I do also think, again, like Victini doesn't really need Victory Star. Obviously, it's a godsend because I fucking hate missing.
No,
but you don't need it. Crobat also doesn't need like Inner Focus or Infiltrator that badly, especially if you're well prepped. So to me, I think those actually work a bit better than you're giving them credit for. I do think the pairing here is strong, but again, as you did say, it's a bit too linear. A lot of these things have very obvious pairings that they want to be with, and there's just not great ways around that otherwise. So overall, I think I do generally agree. I just think it's a bit better than you're giving it credit for.
Okay. I do think that this team is pretty solid. Unlike Radio, who said that Indeed Email isn't really the best pick here, I think it's pretty good, especially for Sai-san. Like, it gives the Psy mode. Like, you have multiple mons that can use E-Force. I think that's pretty solid. And especially having 3 psychic types, I think, like, utilizing it to your best ability will definitely help. But as I just said, they have 3 psychic types, which means that their dark weakness is quite significant. Their only resist is wheezing, and that's not great. Speaking of weaknesses, look at that rock type chart. Oh my goodness, that is bad. It's partially because there are 2 ice types here, and speaking of, like, I don't really think that Lapras and Arctozolt are the best picks here. I think you could probably choose another water type and a different electric type that don't have the ice type, because I don't think ice really helps your team that much here. Well, I guess maybe against like dragon types, but you have E-Force. It's fine. And also a Sun team that has so many like fire weaknesses. Like you have 2 fire resists. It's just Charizard and Victini. Other than that, your entire team is hit by fire neutrally, and I don't think that you're gonna like eating your own son. So overall, I don't really like the resistances that this team has. Like I don't really have a problem with a lot of the archetypes. Like Sai-san is great. I love Sai-san. I think Regigigas Weezing works perfectly fine as their own little middle tier pick. But it's just that the type synergies do not work well, and a lot of the time, your own like sun and partially even your own psychic terrain that boosts psychic attacks. Like I think these things kind of hurt you more than they should when you're building a type of team that relies on these like archetypes.
Yeah. Just one more comment, real quick. Charizard, I think like any other Sunsetter, it would be fine to pair with Weezing. It's just like specifically Charizard you have to switch Weezing in turn 2. You can't turn 1 switch it because the Sun is a mega ability, so it only activates after the switch. If it were any other way, then I would agree. But like I think that in particular for specifically Zard Y is actually not that fun. I think it was like kind of a big downside. It's not like so much so that the team isn't like, is like suddenly bad because of that. It just means that they do not really pair that well.
Yeah, I would also like to respond to T-Ball's thing about the size spam mode. To me, if you bring any of those together, I think that's so fake. Like, you can maybe bring Executor and Need Email, but I think if you focus on that, I think you're bringing so many weak members of your team that I just don't respect it. So, like, yeah. I don't know. I just don't see that as being useful.
Yeah. So what are we thinking? I'm thinking B+.
I say B+.
Yeah, sure.
Which team is this? I love having to check every time.
I love
this is Smashing Hammers.
Yes, okay, they were the cube. Because I couldn't for some reason the Tinkaton GIF didn't upload or image didn't upload and I didn't feel like updating it.
Dang. Disrespect.
It's alright. Anyways, Plumber and Dr. Phil.
Okay. Plumber time. Okay, so personally, again, Gengar Mega, great. I think they did a good job of using Gengar Mega on this team because I think this is a team that A, can pivot well, and B, has a lot of really annoying stuff that likes trapping you. Because I think getting stuff like you can get really annoying matchups with just getting Sneasler on the field versus things that can't really deal with Sneasler first. However, I do think a lot of the low tiers were just kind of randomly taken to a point where I don't really see the point of them. Like, obviously, okay, I know why they got Dodrio, and I respect that immensely. But a lot of this stuff I just don't think is very good or useful, especially with teams. So it's like the first 4 Mons I just love, and I think Meowstic is also very useful as a Mon, and then it drops off heavily from there. So to me, I don't know. There's good things going on here, but I just don't love any of it. It's very easy for me to look at the top Mons and be like, oh, and then I realize it's like you have to make a 6 Mon team at some point, and then this just doesn't have 6 Mon. I don't really have a whole lot other to say than that. I think fundamentally, it's a cool strategy of using Gengar Mega with things that I think can do that pretty well. but other than that, it's just not super cohesive in terms of like what you actually want things to be doing.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's very top heavy, as Radio just said. Like Gengar Mega paired with just a bunch of strong attackers is basically never a bad idea because you're trapping them in. They can't really pivot out. Uh, but yeah, at the same time, also just as he said, like the lower tiers aren't that great. I feel like Rotom Heat is pretty solid in its own right, but like mons like Diggersby like really want a like some form of speed control that like yeah, there's no Drio. The Drio is real. But like you probably want more things to support your lower tiers. Like like I guess that you have Rain from Meowstic for Armaldo, and like I don't know. I don't really know why Granbull and Drampa are really here. Like, I guess they make for a good slow core, but you don't really want Trick Room, it feels like. It doesn't really feel like your Trick Room mode is like that prevalent. I do like Meowstic setting Trick Room. I've used it before and it works, but I feel like it's just not enough. And also, Empoleon is unfortunately very mid for this type of team. I've seen similar team structures with Empoleon, and they just don't work. Gentle will share more probably.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, overall, I like this team, but it's not the best. I like it. I do like it.
I think I agree with like basically the same premise as Radio, where it's like I like the core, but then it's like there's like 5 good mons here, and then you've got to slap on an extra thing, and if one of those mons isn't good in the matchup, it becomes really hard to find what else you put on. So it's like it's almost always going to be like Gengar, Sneasler, Ogerpon, Meowstic, and then you add on like some guys. Rotom Heat will be the number 1 fifth pawn. It'll be the one that you use the most often. But sometimes you just can't, or sometimes for whatever reason maybe Sneasler's not good. Maybe maybe you really don't feel like Ogerpon's gonna be putting in work. That's stupid, but maybe you just feel that way. Like that, if that sort of thing happens, it becomes really awkward to fill out the team. And I think having that be so obvious, like that you're gonna run those 4 mons, makes it really easy to prep for. I think in particular, Expanding Force is really scary for this team. Like in terms of psychic resists, they only have 2, and one of them is Empoleon, who I think is fake, and the other one is Meowstic, who is a support mon. So, like, just having very few psychic resists and having 2 of your top tiers be like super psychic weak just kind of hurts. Granted, there are other ways to beat Psy Spam. It's just like notable, there is a great way to beat Psy Spam, which is Imprisoned Male Indeedee is really funny.
Yeah.
Or
True.
sorry, Imprisoned Male Meowstic, not Indeedee. But yeah, my main issue is like that and Empoleon being really fake and not actually a good Snarl deterrent.
Classic Empoleon.
It's just not good. It's neither a good steel or a water type. I don't know how it's possible. It just isn't very good at either of them. Anyways, where were we thinking of putting Plumber? I know Plumber's team.
I think B plus.
B plus, yeah.
I think top of B plus. It's close.
It feels kind of like the Jace's team, where they have a really strong like core mons, but like other than that, it's just a bit lacking. But this one brings it even more to the extreme. Like the core is even more difficult to prep for, in my opinion.
Well, it's more difficult to prep for and more consistent because you're not having to set Trick Room or do anything like that to make your core work.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gengar and those kind of guys are just online immediately. You can just immediately do what you want to do. You don't have to think about setup. You can, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to Philium Doctor.
Dr. Philium.
T-Ball is starting us off on this one.
Yep.
Right. Okay. This team looks cool. Chiyu Bundle is always appreciated. They have been a dynamic duo in Scarlet and Violet basically since they were legal. I like that they have Kilowattrel here as like a third fast mon that bridges the gap between Bundle and Chiyu. And Voltorb, I guess. But Yeah, I like that Kilowattrel is here to give like a bit more speed control. Like it's just helpful overall. Like Bundles is a great speed control mon. Like with Icy Wind and basically being the fastest thing, uh, it's really good. But I like having Kilowattrel here. Mega Scizor is interesting, I suppose. It's not bad here, to be honest. It's like it gives Prio, and Prio is never bad. So does Hitmontop. Clefable is great for redirection, especially for like such an offensive team, it feels like. So like if you can use Clefable to just redirect away your attacks and just have Chiyu and Bundle bonk things on the side. Uh, I also like this team's like Trick Room mode with Mega Abomasnow, where like Mega Abomasnow is actually powerful enough where like it has 132 offensives. So with that speed tier and with Slowking setting Trick Room, which is pretty good. Slowking is a pretty good Trick Room setter in my opinion. I think that this Trick Room mode is actually quite threatening. Like you also have Clodsire, which I like Clodsire. It's actually pretty good. Despite having relatively weak offenses, it actually can put in work. So yeah, overall, right, flaws. I don't like that both your megas are quad weak to fire. It feels like fire types just do really well into this team. Like the resists are Chiyu and Slowking. I guess that's good, but Chiyu and Slowking aren't really strong enough to threaten those fire types in return. Like Chiyu is strong, but like if you're choice locked into a fire move, you're just going to sit there. And Slowking is like it's not bad, but it's Slowking. It's no bomb. Uh, yeah, I guess that's all I have to say.
Mm. So I will differ in one thing here. I agree with a lot of what you said, but I do think that like Iron Bundle is probably one of the best Pokemon to pair with Pokemon that are quad weak to fire, because like it has the single fastest Hydro Pump that you can achieve. I think it's even faster than like most Swift swimmers, right?
Yeah.
It's absurdly fast. Like it's stupid fast. It's not quite Excelgor fast, but it's like it is stupid fast. It's and like being able to Hydro Pump anything before it moves is just really cool. It means like Scarf Fire types are not really a huge issue for this team if you play around them properly. And I think like one detail I really like about the two mega choices they have is that a lot of their lower tiers use either some sort of priority or like offers some like really unique support. So like Slowking's a untauntable Trick Room setter that's really useful. Hitmontop is either a technician prankster, like a technician prio spammer, or like just a really useful intimidate support to keep like the physically frail Chiyu alive. And Scizor and Abomasnow both have like really well. I guess Abomasnow isn't that strong, but like it still has moderately strong prio in the form of like Ice Shard and Technician Bullet Punch. I think like having access to all that like prio, all that like finishing power is really good when your core is like just two hyper offense mons in the form of like Bundle Chiyu or Kilowattrel Chiyu. Like that's just like fundamentally solid to me. I'm never gonna disparage that. I think it's like a really solid team. I agree the fire weakness kind of sucks balls. I really do not like the flying weakness either. That's another one. But Clefable can really help with flying weakness because like unless your name is Tornadus, you're not really clicking a spread flying move. So yeah, I think overall it has like it certainly has flaws. Oh yeah, also the like fast hyper offense mode is all weak to Rock, which kind of sucks. But Rock is also notoriously not the most consistent offensive type, so sometimes you can just get away with it. Yeah, I'd say overall this is like a really solid team. I don't have huge flaws with it. I think it's just like it's a hyper offense team, so it's okay with taking big damage sometimes.
Yeah, I generally agree. I think this team is really cool in that it has like basically any mode you can run. I think actually has a reasonable way to do it. Abomasnow Mega can reasonably run in Trick Room stuff. They have a pretty great Tailwind and super hyper offensive mode with Chiyu Iron Bundle and Kilowattrel. They have really solid balance tools and they have Hitmontop, Clefable, Scizor Mega. So honestly, I think there's just a lot that they can do with this that I think is pretty cool. So to me, I think it's a very solid team. As Gentle mentioned, I think the stuff covers a lot for each other. Iron Bundle can deal with fire type mons fairly effectively. Chiyu, if you try and set Sun, Chiyu will kill you. I don't care if you're a fire type.
Yeah.
So I think there's actually just like genuinely a lot of cool stuff that they can do with this. And to me, that's one of those things where it's like that versatility combined with using a lot of very solid mons that work well together. I think that's really good. I would say A+. I think it's a really strong team.
I agree.
Yeah, I can. Sure, I agree. Yeah.
Were you gonna say something? Do you have any notes? I do think it's worse than Izzy's. I just think it's a really good team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this placement is fair.
All right, moving on then. Moving on to TKL and Phoenix.
Yep. So Phoenix is Gentle.
Yeah. Okay, so Phoenix's team. I really like Tapu Fini. I really like Kangaskhan. I really like Meowscarada. Those are all like really solid balance mons, and he is using Typhlosion. And as we know for CPC, Typhlosion is based. I think Murko is actually an excellent get in A tier. I don't think it's quite an S tier mon, but it's definitely one of those like edge cases for me where it's like it's such a good A tier that I definitely respect getting it regardless what you have. And they make really good use of it with what they have. They have like you can like do Swagger Misty Terrain stuff with Metagross. You can do this team makes really good use of Tailwind while not being entirely reliant on it because you have first of all, you have like a lot of good Scarfers. Finny and Typhlosion are great Scarfers, but you also have like just Prankster Tailwind from a mon that is like actually offensively threatening thanks to foul play. So like unlike Illumise or Volbeat, it can actually do something when it's on the field, which means that I just value it higher. Meowscarada is really good like anchor mon to just be like, oh, your team's faster than mine. I'm just gonna like flower trick you, get killed, idiot. That's pretty cool. I think the tricker mode is pretty real. I've mentioned this before. I don't think having bad F tiers really matters, but having good F tiers does matter. And Mudbray is like the best F tier, so having Mudbray is just like really nice. Like a 100 attack, unfake outable, unintimidatable, like EV Light user that is just like really like hard to remove and able to KO a lot of your mons is pretty good for an F tier. And that alone helps with the trigger mode a little bit. Granted, the trigger mode is still bad, but like the fact that they have any form of trigger mode, I think helps round out the team a little bit. I would say this is like probably A+. I would be okay with A though.
I'm personally gonna say I think this is more A for me. They have a lot of really good stuff. I just don't think any of it's like so excessively strong that it's unbeatable, especially because it's kind of balanced, but it's a lot of mons that I don't love running on balanced stuff that I think prefer to have some like a lot of more like abusable shit going on. But I do think like there's decent versatility here. It's obviously a solid core. So for me, it lands more in A. I just don't think it's as overwhelming as it potentially could be.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I do agree with Gentle more here. Like, I think that this team is really well rounded and it supports its own team really well with all like the different sets that Gentle has mentioned, like especially like Tapu Fini swagger stuff. It's really fun. Uh, I think that like Mega Kang is a very good mon, and with like Tapu Fini providing Misty Terrain to make it immune to burns, and even for Metagross as well, and even Meowscarada, I guess. Uh, like overall, this team is just really well rounded. It supports itself really well, and like I think that it's overall a really good team. Also, there's Hitmonlee, so unburdened, unburdened.
I am
Yeah.
I am a Hitmonlee enjoyer.
Yeah, you are. You are a Hitmonlee enjoyer. Like it could run like reasonably run like Tapu Fini, Metagross, Hitmonlee, and just get coaching boosts every single turn. That could be something fun. Yeah. Overall, I like this team a lot. I'd say I might put in A plus, maybe A, at least A.
Yeah, no
I
one's
think it's
saying
easily
lower
at
than
least
A.
A.
Yeah. I think I'm okay with A, and I think Dr. Phil and that feels so weird to say. Dr. Phil and Izzy's team are like probably a good step above this. This is a good team. I just don't think it's like that level. So I would agree with A tier overall.
Yeah.
Top of
Okay.
A, maybe.
Which one is Phoenix's team logo? I think it's the Groudon one.
Phoenix is the Pembroke Palafin.
Right. Okay.
Oh, right.
This guy. I think it's better than the other one we looked at, the other A tier, Cosmic Isles.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree because I don't like Cosmic Isles team.
I think we agreed it was going to be bottom of A tier, so I'm fine with that.
Okay, on to TKL's team. This is Pickle's team. We ranked it B.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to talk about it again. We could talk about it for TKL's sake, but TKL, go watch Dialga. Not really good reason to rank this, to be fair. I feel the same way about it as I did then. Where did we put it in that? Was it B or B+? I'm fine with either.
I think we put it in B.
I
mean, I think it's B, so...
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's better or worse than Rattata's. I'd say worse.
No.
Sounds pretty cool.
Maybe
Yeah,
the
it's in
real
B.
worst is the friends we made along the way.
And then the logo is the Gooby. I do
Bro.
like the logo. If it was on logos, this logo would be A tier. I think like poorly drawn Wombat is really funny.
So true.
Gooby.
Gooby.
All right.
Gooby.
I
Okay.
guess we can move on rather quickly then. On to
Flame.
Flame.
T-ball's turn.
Yeah. Wait, no.
I'm just skipping. Just ignoring my turn.
Do you just want to skip
Does
your
the
turn?
last one even count?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is like I wouldn't really count
It
TKL
does.
if you want to go
It does
again,
to
radio.
me.
Okay. All right. It's the principle of
I
this
just want to skip my turn.
thing. All right. I guess it's radio. I guess it's T-ball's turn.
Yeah, radio.
No.
It's T-ball's turn.
Okay.
My insight on TCals is very important.
Make sure to dunk on Metatite.
Right. So this team is a team. Okay.
Thanks.
He's too powerful.
I'm so glad you're here, T-ball.
Okay. I really like the speed tiers of this team. I think it has really good natural speed tiers. Like the tops and the bottoms are all really good. I really like Alolan Raichu. I think Alolan Raichu supports this team really well. Since it can do like cool discharge stuff with Sceptile. It has Fake Out Follow Me, which is always good. Technically, it can do like electric terrain. I mean, Iron Jugs and Raichu could be an interesting pairing where you use booster Jugs to set electric terrain and you get like rising voltage stuff. That's pretty cool, I'd say. I don't. Having Metagross and Marshadow being your top tiers is pretty weird. Like, I feel like they kind of do the same thing, but Metagross just kind of does it better. Where like a fast attacker, but Metagross has also just it has more bulk. I don't hate Marshadow though. I know Gentle does, but I don't. Volcanion is great. It's a great mon that works on basically any sort of team. It's just a ball of stats that can work both in like fast modes in Tailwind and in Trick Room. And you do have Diancie in Trick Room, which is like a pretty solid Trick Room setter, I'd say. Like there is a quad weakness, which does probably hurt when prepping, but you have Raichu. Raichu has Follow Me. Follow Me is always great. Metatite, not gonna lie, inferior psychic fighting type, just saying, but you do you. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this team has like a lot of good aspects and then like a lot of aspects where I question it. Like, I don't really think Sceptile Mega has a purpose on this team to me. Like, it's a grass type, I guess, but it's like, it just feels really awkward to be getting like Metagross Mega you're going to use every week. Let's be so for real. Like, it's one of the best Megas. It's one of the best Pokemon, period. It's what this team feels built around Metagross Mega. I don't really feel like it's got the same kind of smoke for Sceptile. Like, at best, you can redirect electric moves for Iron Jugulus, which is like, it's a support mon. It doesn't really need that. And like, or maybe for Volcanion, who's really bulky and doesn't care about anything other than like specs electric types. I feel like it's really awkward on this team. I don't dislike Marshadow, contrary to T-Ball's belief. I just think it's like really mid for S tier. It's kind of like Incineroar, where it's like, I don't really think it's worth drafting in S tier. It's still an S tier mon. I just don't think it's like a great one. And then like, I don't think Silvally has a great purpose, because Silvally's like really good thing is that it's a Tailwinder that can be any type you want and has Parting Shot. So like, that's pretty cool. But like, Jugulus is much better at Tailwind than, I'm not even going to pretend. It's much better at Tailwind than Silvally is. And I think that's like Silvally's main thing. It can do other stuff for sure. It has like Source Dance sets. It's like, it has stuff, but it's like, I would say it's very much like a Tailwind bot first. So removing that aspect of it just feels kind of weird. I think this team doesn't really have a real Tricker mode. I'm sorry, Diancie is not a real Tricker mon. And like, yeah, Volcanion can be made into a Tricker mon, but if it's your only Tricker mon, base 70 is just too fast.
Yep, I would basically agree with everything it says. I think there's a lot of mon choices. Marshadow, I don't here, or Sceptile Mega. There's nothing you're getting out of Lightning Rod or another Ice Week. Really, that's what I just think of Sceptile Mega as. There's a lot of cool mons. Volcanion, Silvally, Metagross, Jugulus are all very good mons, but I just think that it's like you're in a place where a lot of the mons just aren't getting the value that they really should relative to their tiers. I don't think it all works together and then as much as one wants to. So Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like okay. I think it's an A team because I think there's
Yeah.
here, but there's just not quite enough that's working out.
Yeah, I agree with A tier. I think it's just like
Yeah, I can agree with A.
I would put it below Kyle's. I don't know how you feel about that radio.
Do you say you put it below Kyle's?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I like Kyle's whole team more, but I like Flame's core more.
I would like Kyle's team more if it wasn't what it was.
All right. Well, I think in this instance we're just gonna have to overrule because I think people also agrees. Or did I mishear you?
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Okay. Which one is Flames? I think he's
Groudon.
yeah.
Groudon.
Okay. He's Groudon Gaming. I wouldn't say it's like
Under-
much. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like
Kyle,
much worse.
we're
I
putting
wouldn't.
it under Kyle.
I'm sorry. I wouldn't say it's like much worse. I just think it's like they're pretty much neck and neck to me, honestly. All right, Bib Fortuna from the Star Wars movie. That's the guy next to Jabba Hutt with the tail on his head.
Good to know.
Whose turn is it?
It's your turn, Gentle.
Oh yeah, because you skipped your turn. All right. So first thing that jumps out at me: why is there no Mega here? Megas are free stats. It's not like you have to draft a Mega, but it's usually not a great idea to not draft a Mega. It's just like there are very specific situations where you're like, okay, I think this mon is like so under tiered, I have to get this, and I think this mon is like so good at enabling this other mon that I have to get it, and sooner or later you just run out of points. That sometimes happens, but if your team is that broken, it's gonna be S tier regardless. If your team is not S tier, then you should be getting a Mega. So like, when we're talking about on that power scale, I don't understand this team's decision to not have Megas, especially I think we've seen this before, a Sun team that has multiple overlapping roles. We have 4 different grass types, we have 3 different fire types, and I feel like there's like basically no trickery mode here, so it's like super reliant on Lilligant to get full value out of Torkoal. I think this team, okay, I don't want to be like harsh. I think this team is like really bad though. I think like there's a lot missing here structurally. I feel like there's so much overlap on what everything does. It just feels really awkward. I feel like Intimidate is like really strong into this team, like incredibly strong into this team, and there's like basically no counterplay to that. I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, basically everything Gentle said. This is a Sun team where it's using a bunch of Sun mons that I don't think are like ideal mons. So it's just kind of like, why would I do this? Why would I make this? I don't get the point of it. There's some good mons here. Dragonite is always useful just for versatility of the set, but it's just like this is a bunch of Sun stuff that is not primarily Sun stuff, and that's just like, okay, I guess I just don't see why you'd really want to make that. So I don't know. I just don't like it at all, and I think that's just basically echoing what Gentle said, but I think it's accurate.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this is kind of in a similar boat to where to the Trick Room team we discussed earlier, where like just like how hard Trick Room should not just only be Trick Room mons, Sun teams should not just only be Sun mons. Like if you have a Sun team, you should have other stuff that people have to prep for, so that they aren't Sun. You have more versatility for a team. It's basically always a net positive. So you have non-Sun reliant things on your Sun team, and this team like it has Dragonite, it has Arcanine, sure, but like that's within itself. Like you should have other options, and also you don't need both Blossom and Lilligant. They're basically the same mon, but with a different speed tier. Just drop Blossom. You don't need it.
I'll drop Lilligant.
You don't need Flareon. It's a physical attack, just like Arcanine. Like bringing a kid to work is fun because like Flareon be funny, but like it's not good.
Yeah. One other thing that needs to be mentioned about this team is that it looks very similar to a team we looked at in Dialga that had basically the same problem of being a Sun team that had way too many Sun and like Chlorophyll mons and like nothing else.
Yeah, you can't index on one strategy that hard. It just you get, especially in draft, because you will just get prepped for.
I think specifically Sun and Rain, you kind of can, but you have to be really smart about it. And this is not the way you do that.
I just don't think that's
yeah. Well, I don't mean you wouldn't make your whole team around it. You'd make like 2/3 of your team around it.
Yeah. So I think this team is C tier easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's D tier, but like lacking a Mega is like such a big like maybe it is D tier to me. I don't think I want to add a D tier just for this. I think this team does need a lot of love though.
It needs TLC.
Yeah, it's the Frog one, right? Which is why they drafted not Frog.
Yeah,
No, it's X8.
Which logo is
it is
that?
Xaid, but that don't know.
Wait, is it the frog one?
I think it's the frog one, because the Mudkip Company one I think is
It has to. It has to. Yeah.
yeah. I remember that
It has to
their
be.
name being
Process of
FF.
elimination.
I remember their team name was FF, and then their name is also Fortuna, so it's FFF.
They're the Fantastic Frog.
Fantastic frogs.
And where to find them.
I read that book.
Okay, we good to head on to next?
Yes, we're on Angel.
Great. Okay, Lesser Angel. Okay,
The lesser kind.
the Angel of the Lesser Kind. So here, I just don't love it. I think there's a lot of anti-synergy within this team. None of the stuff really works together. Grassy Terrain and Sandstream are canceling out the main effects of each of them, which is not great. There's nothing really that takes advantage of it. Cresselia can't get Grassy Terrain either, so it's not getting healing from that. Primarina, I think, is a fake A tier. Tyranitar, I also think, is kind of a fake A tier. They need to be enabling stuff or having very specific comps to work, and I don't think this has them. And Rabombi is like not something I ever want to be using as the main speed control. I guess you have Cresselia for Trick Room, but I don't think this is a very strong Trick Room team either. So I just think there's a lot of problems with this. There's a lot of anti-synergy. None of the mons are really strong enough, and they're all things that I think are really easy to prep for personally. So I just don't love it. I don't have a whole lot other to say. I just think there's clear anti-synergy, and there's just a lot going on that makes it good.
T-Ball?
Okay. Yeah. I agree. There's just the anti-synergy is definitely probably the biggest problem with this team. Like you've got Grassy Terrain and Sand, which, as Radio said, doesn't work. The funniest part, it gets hurt by Sand. I see that there's an attempted Sand mode here with T-Tar and Mega Steelix, but Grassy Terrain just stops you from spamming Sand Force Earthquakes. So, yeah, that's another anti-synergy point. It's not great. And, like, T-Tar Steelix isn't the best Sand mode in it of itself already. So, hindering it even more just hurts your team. I do like Rabombi here, actually. I think Rabombi is actually pretty solid. You've got like tail and stuff, and it definitely helps your team since like it'll let mons like Primarina actually move before other people and let it do damage before just dying to your grassy terrain boosted grass moves that kill your own Pokemon. But yeah, overall, this team just it's a bit all over not all over the place. It's just anti-synergistic. There's not much I can add here.
No, I think you're on the right track when you said all over the place. I think like the way I would characterize this draft is distracted. That's like the word I would use. Like it looks like you were going in a direction with Cresselia Rillaboom. Like, oh, it's gonna be like a really bulky team. And you add T-Tar, it's like, okay, I can kind of see T-Tar. It's gonna have really big anti-synergy with Rillaboom and Cresselia, but maybe if you're enabling like something like Dracovish or Dracozolt, like something that's like moderately bulky and really appreciates the sand, I could see it, right? Then you go Primarina, and it's like, well, I don't know about that. And then like once you get down to like Steelix, it's like it's fully lost the plot. I feel like this is one of those teams where you like, to me at least, this looks like they theory crafted a good type chart and didn't think about the rest of the team. And then they saw, oh, I could get triple starters and do pledges, and then didn't think about the rest of the team. And then like, Grassy Terrain Rillaboom is really good, and then didn't think about like how that interacts with T-Tar. I feel like there's just like not a lot of thought put into how these pieces work together. It just feels like you like distracted. And that does make sense because if I understand correctly, Lesser Angel, this is like their first draft. So for a first draft, it's definitely not bad. It's just like, it definitely is like, improvable.
Yeah, I'd say C tier.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to agree.
C tier. Better than the Suns
Yeah, well, is it better than the Grumpig team? I think so.
team, though. I think it's better than
I think it's better than the Grumpig team. I think it's much more likely to win matches than the Grumpig team.
What's the stadium,
Yeah.
the Screamtail one again? I'm trying to remember who
Sacramento,
that was.
the Screamtail one?
Yeah.
What do you... The team
Screamtail.
with Screamtail.
No, the logo. I'm trying to remember
Right?
who's who. It sucks to not have the names attached to the logos.
This one is the Sacramento Claydol, so...
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
this team. I'm just wondering if they're above the Screamtail one or not.
The Samson Screamtails is Chaos, which is the Sun
Right.
team with
Okay, I think this is
and
better
Sun
than that.
Rain.
That one's also a bit all over the place.
Yeah, but at least
Yeah,
this team,
and,
you
like-
can like just choose to not bring T-Tar.
Like, at least the Mons are, like, good off there.
Yeah, you can just
Yeah.
choose to not bring T-Tar and then your team feels okay. Or, you know, bring Unnerved T-Tar. I'm not even joking. Just Scarf Unnerved T-Tar and just pretend.
Yeah.
Alright, on to
Okay.
Kool-Aid.
That's
T-Ball.
kind of epic. Okay. This is a really offensive team. It's really powerful. You've got Qian Pao with like strong physical attackers, and like Lucario. Lucario Mega is a really strong attacker with adaptability, and you just close combat everything that breathes. And you also have Zeraora, which is a really fast Mon that has solid physical attack that I think pairs decently well with Qian Pao, but they did drop a really cool Mon, but we're not going to talk about that because it's not technically on their team right now. So
You can,
it doesn't
I think.
count. Wait,
No, I think you
what was
can.
that Mon? Yeah, it doesn't
Iron
exist.
Boulder. You can talk about it.
It doesn't exist. Yeah, it's not. Okay, we can talk about it. Okay,
Yeah, why
sure.
not?
Iron Boulder's better because because it breaks protect. It's broken. It just limits positioning a lot against like a very offensive teams, and not having it definitely lowers this team's ratings, but I think it's still a really good team overall. You've got your fake out Mons and like Zera and Monkey. You've technically have a way to reverse Trick Room. Mimikyu is actually a pretty good Trick Room reverser, I'd say. And you can use Trick Room pretty well. You've got Marowak, which is really powerful with that Flick Club item, and Gumshoes is actually kind of a nuke. Not gonna lie, I know you might disagree. This might be a hot take, but I think Gumshoes is a nuke. I once did like 75% to a Corviknight with Gumshoes. It's really funny. But yeah, overall, I think this team is really solid. Had Iron Boulder back. But still, really solid team. I like it a whole lot. I think it's at least a B plus team. At least I would argue for it to be A, to be honest. Yeah,
I think this is wait. Yeah, sorry, Gentle next. Go, Gentle.
Yeah. I think like before on the specifically the Iron Boulder version, like, I mean, I'll be honest. I did not care about Gumshoes. I did not care about, you know, the stupid apple. I did not care about Luxio or Wingull. None of that mattered. What mattered is that the core was incredibly solid, just because, like, hey, getting punched with Sword of Ruin through Protect is really, really hard to deal with. And you might think, okay, I can just outspeed and out-offense. Good luck out-offensing a 135 base speed Sucker Punch user and a booster speed Mon that goes through Protect. Like, there was basically no out-offensing that core. So, like, I do think it's a seriously significant downgrade to go to Zeraora, because that forces you to focus more on your teammates, and I think that's where this team is, like, less good. Milotic's fine. I don't think Milotic pairs really well with Chen Pao. Its physical defense is the worst part about it, and Chen Pao makes that worse. It does have competitive for Intimidate, though, which I appreciate. It's just that, like, Lucario has Inner Focus before it Megas, and, you know, I think that could have been enough Intimidate counterplay. Not really, but, like, I just don't think that, like, Milotic really works for what you want on this team to me. I think you'd rather have a Defiant user than a, like, competitive user. I also don't really like the use of... What's it called? I don't really like Talonflame here, which is odd, because, like, usually I'm a big like, hey, fast Tailwind, that's good. Like, that's why Whimsicott is so good. But I think on, like, a hyper offense team that's spamming Prio and is, like, already this fast, having Prankster Tailwind kind of feels like overkill to me. I'd much rather have, like, a lower tiered Prankster Tailwind user, like Fletchender or something, just so that you can counter other Prankster Tailwinds without actually having to invest that much. So, like, I think the points are poorly spent, but I don't think the point of this team was to be well spent, so it's not really a knock against Kool-Aid as a builder.
Yeah, I would generally agree with just what Gentle said about this. Again, sad that Boulder's gone, because I think it really helped alleviate one of the major problems with this team, or not necessarily a problem, but one of the major ways in which this team can lose, which is someone, you know, making good protects and calling targeting correctly. But basically, it's got a lot of really great tools. Chen Pao Lucario is broken. Talonflame is useful. Bullnotic is useful. Mimikyu is useful. Munkador just useful. All of these things work together very well, and I think that makes it just a very solid core. as Gentle said, lower tiers really don't matter that much. I don't really see the point of having like Marowak here. Lightning Rod is always neat, but you don't need it for anything here.
It's really unfortunate, but you do Lightning Rod Plasma Fist before it hits something, so you can't Lightning Rod a move that you Plasma Fist.
Yeah, unfortunately. So yeah, for me, it's like I think it's A just because there's the genuine strength of the things that they have. Like some of the obvious synergies of just like get Tailwind up and murder everyone is a viable strategy. And it's, again, there's only so much you can plan before you just get punched in the mouth. So for me, that's kind of what this team like. It's A, there's stuff that I think is not great. The spending wasn't great, and I think there's definitely that hurt their core a lot by putting themselves back in a position where they don't have Boulder. But it still has pretty obvious synergies that work very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Oh, by the way, on Plasma Fist, you can do Plasma Fist and then U-turn with Talonflame and then switch in Marowak.
Oh, that's so worth it.
And that works for 1 turn.
Let's go. I can redirect a singular normal type move to get a special attack boost. Oh wait, no, it makes immune. So literally, you just act. I mean, you would have the same effect from just having Volt Absorb on the field because it has Volt Absorb. Whatever. That's not real. Let's be so for real.
Yeah.
Okay.
For real, it's not real.
We're on to the last 2 teams. Ignore the Team Titans. Go.
Okay.
That was a thing.
It's T-Ball's team, and we're going to start with Gentle.
Yippee! Well,
Let's
actually,
go.
okay. Can we mix up the order purely because I basically, like, me and T-Ball were neck and neck in this. I helped with every single Mon pick here, so I'm the most biased I could be. So I feel like starting with Radio is better.
Okay. This has a lot of just like genuinely abusable stuff, which just very strong Mons. Like just going down this list, these are all things that I love and that can be really fucking annoying on a team. Plus, it works with T-Ball because it has Thunderous Eye, so you can just be a horrible person with it. So, for me, I think there's a lot of great stuff about this. I think it's actually genuinely a really good draft, especially even down to the low tiers. Nidoking, Mabosstiff, and Purugly are all very useful low tiers in terms of stuff like Fake Out, Intimidate, and Nidoking just actually having pretty great offensive output with really good coverage moves. So, to me, I think this is a really strong team. Prio blocking is there, Trick Room mode is there, Tailwind mode is there because Salamence can actually run that. And a Fluttermane can run Speedy Icy Wind, so there's great speed control options. There's a lot of ways to play this, and a lot of ways you can get kind of screwed over by it. If you disrespect Darmanitan, Choice Band can easily murder you. There's just a ton going on here that I think is great. Overall, I really just don't have any problems with this. I just think it's a really good team. I would probably say A+, not S+, just because I feel like I'm fine to just click Shadow Ball into everything on this team. Like you have Mabosstiff and Purugly as things to deal with that, and I don't think those are really things you want to bring a whole lot of the time. So for me, opposing ghost types can be a problem, especially because Fluttermane has ended up a little bit as a mon where it doesn't take Okos a whole lot of the time. 135 is good, but it's not necessarily like immediate overkill range. So to me, being able to spam ghost moves into this is pretty nice, but other than that, I really don't think it has any problems. So for me, I think it's clearly A+ tier.
Yeah, I think I largely agree. I think it's like slightly missing out on S tier, and I do mean this. Like I mean like even the slightest differences, and if the draft went slightly better for us, like originally Mudbray was on the plan. I think if you had Mudbray over Cubone, the Tricker mode is so real. Like because right now Cubone is definitely like a usable Tricker mon, but like it's just a little frail. Where like Mudbray does not have that problem. And like Hariyama is a great Tricker mon, but it's not really Okoing things unless you're using the Gut set, which is a little bit more gimmicky. Well, it's not gimmicky. That's not the right word. It's a little bit less consistent. And like Bronzong's a great Trick Room setter, but it itself doesn't do great damage. If this had Mudbray and it had like that scary of a Tricker mode to me, I think this team would be S tier. However, I think it's just like the Tricker mode's a little too ignorable, and B-Barrel's like a little bit too awkward of a water type to use. Don't get me wrong, it's like it's a perfectly usable one with like simple sword stance and just click like +4 Aqua Jet. That's really funny. But like, yeah, I'd say overall this is like the best team in this division. I don't really think there's a great argument to say anything's better than it, which is really funny because it means that we put myself on top of the Dialga, and I'm wanting to put T-Ball on top of Palkia, so we're very not biased.
Yeah, we're so not biased. I think this team is really awesome. That type chart. Look at that type chart. Zoom in on that type chart. Okay, but in all seriousness, I think overall this team, like, it has the speed tiers, it has like the power, it has a lot of different options it can use, and overall, I think that the people who built this team, especially the person who helps the player build this team. They're probably a very cool person.
I don't
Yeah.
think so. I think Radio would agree that person's probably lame.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I'm gonna Thunderwave you, Radio.
does
And
anyone
Rock Slide.
argue that Izzy's team is better than this? We can review if you want. Let's look at it before we decide.
I think T-Ball's team has slightly more options than Izzy's does. I think they're probably similar, like basically the same in terms of the power they can get to at optimal play. But I think T-Ball's team is a little bit more resistant to like low play, which I think is good.
Yeah. Although Urshifu is very good at being resistant to just, it's like, oh, I made the wrong play, but I still hit them. But yeah, other than Urshifu, I would agree. Also,
Izzy's type chart is also really pretty.
Yeah, Izzy's is good
I do think your team being a bit weak to Ghost moves kind of sucks, but whatever.
The nice thing is that Ghost is like not that great of an offensive type because you're using 80 base power Shadow Ball or using inconsistent Poltergeist, which is nice.
Joke's on you, I have CSR.
I'm banning you.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite S tier. I don't think there's any S tier teams this season. Although, like, I genuinely could hear an argument if people wanted to fight on the soapbox to say S tier. I could hear the argument. I just don't think the Tricker mode is real enough to make it like truly unplayable.
I agree. Unfortunately, I agree. Screw you, Phoenix!
Phoenix, you want to do a trade and make the most broken team?
How dare you!
Alright, so we're on to our last team. DJ Khaled. Last but certainly not least.
Okay. Gentle, you're starting this one because we switched.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Alright, so for things I like about this team. I think Goldango Ogerpon is a really cool core, and I think it works really well. Since like Ogerpon's able to get rid of those like pesky water types and ground types that are really annoying for Goldango to deal with. Follow Me is really good. Defiant means that you can't really snarl at Goldango. That's one of the best ways of slowing down Goldango is like clicking snarl into it so that it can't like get nasty plot boosts too quickly. I think like Pelipper, I really do not think Swampert Mega should have been left in B tier. That was just a mistake. And I think like Swampert Mega Pelipper is incredibly good like core, and then you have like a really solid grass type redirector to protect Swampert from its #1 weakness and to protect Pelipper from electric moves. I think that's just like really fundamentally solid. Raikou is a really solid mon who works in and out of rain very well. Sneasel is a great option just to have as like an inner focus, fake out mon, inner focus, like taunt, knockoff. It just like it provides a lot of value. DOD I have not seen a lot of. I don't think I've seen it drafted before, to be honest. I've seen it drafted in singles. That's a whole different beast. I know it gets taunt. I know it gets trick room. It's like moderately fast for a bulky mon, and like its main set would probably be cosmic power stuff, but I can't speak for sure. It definitely can do meteor beam stuff. I won't pass strong judgment on it, but I do think it has like the stats and the move pool to go the distance. And I think like they make good use of their lower tiers. I think Machamp is really solid. I think Wigglytuff is really solid. Arbok, just having low tier Intimidate is always like really valuable. Yeah, I'd say this team is like really solid. It's a little weak to Fairy, but that doesn't really matter when you have Goldango, the best Fairy killer in the business. And same thing with Ice types. So yeah, I would say this team is like pretty much, I wouldn't say flawless, but it's very hard to find flaws for it. It's just the Tricker mode's a little weak, I guess.
Yeah, I would generally agree with what you said. Goldango, Ogerpon are great pairs. Pelipper, Swampert, great pairs. And then I think Raikou is just a great thing. That I think my only concern is that once you get past those 5 mons, everything here is a little bit weird. I don't really see what DOD is doing on here. I know what traits it has, but I don't think any of those traits are things that you really want here. And to me, to be honest, DOD is kind of a mon where it's like I feel like you really pick it when you run out of the preferred option, which may have been the case here. I just don't think it really does what it necessarily wants to. Sneasel and Machamp are things that can get use, but for me, they're stuff that it's like I would want to bring to a specific matchup, not have to be like, oh, Sneasel is my dedicated fake out user.
That's true.
It can work, but I don't think it's ideal. Machamp is something where it can definitely do some funny stuff, but it's not that great. Arbok and Wigglytuff, its main thing is competitive realistically, and you already have a great Defiant user, so why are you doing that? Arbok has Intimidate, but it's Arbok. So I think it gets a little bit weird after your first 5 mons, because I don't think you can really cover stuff outside of specific matchups with the rest of your team, so I think that is a bit of a weakness. Again, also Trick Room mode doesn't exist really. So I do think it has a very strong core, but I think it falls off pretty quickly, and I do think there are some a bit too linear to it in terms of how it's going to have to play sometimes. So that is my major problem. So for me, I'd say probably A tier.
Yeah, I could see that. Oh wait.
Yeah. Overall, I do agree with your points. About the Trick Room mode, I did notice that Reuniclus is still on the board, so that would absolutely help your
Mm.
trick room mode a lot over DoD,
Yeah, I agree with that.
right? Mm-hmm. Uh, like as you've all mentioned earlier, I think Goldangle is very well supported in this team, and just the rain mode having like this is a good example of not overcommitting to a mode. Like it's just Pelipper and Swampert, but that's plenty.
Yeah, it's
And
Pelipper Swampert. You always have to respect it, but you didn't. You only
Mhm.
spent two picks on it.
And all your
Yeah,
picks passively benefit from rain too.
Mm-hmm. Like Ogerpon and Goldangle like have weakened fire attacks to hit them, and overall, yeah, I think this is probably one of the best examples of like how to actually do a good weather mode and not overcommit like a lot of the other teams, or undercommit like some of the other teams have done in this division.
Oh, it's also notable there's like not a good Tailwind setter here. Pelipper's okay at setting Tailwind, but it's really not good at it. So that's like, if there is a flaw, that's it. Is like not having a Tailwind setter for
That
Goldango.
is true. Garfamolga!
Please do not ever bring the Molga. It's so bad. Its stats are unbelievably bad. I looked at it for Gen 5. Yeah, I think like
Got a favorite in the house.
I think I'd put it like right here. I think above Kyle's, but below Phoenix's. That's Phoenix, right? Pembroke Paladins.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can vibe with that.
I'm down with that.
Okay, do we want to make any tier changes? I think we said we would come back to TMT and see if we think it's C tier or not.
To who?
TMT, which was Bryo,
Ryos.
the
Uh,
low pony team that has like a lot of anti-synergy, but just fundamentally good mons. Well, not anti-synergy,
I don't-
just zero synergy.
I don't think it's C tier.
Yeah,
I don't think it's C tier.
yeah. I don't think in good conscience I can put it there. It might even no. I don't think it's better than. Do we think it's better than TKL's? I don't think so. I think TKL's is like I don't know. Just having a bunch of offense buttons with Tailwind is still good.
Yeah, no, I think TKL's just has like just one glaring issue, whereas I think this team is generally just not synergistic, which I think is a bigger issue.
Yeah, it's true. I agree with that.
Mhm.
Okay, and I think I'm okay with all these tiers. I guess we give one last look at the top two and see, do we actually think that T-Ball is better than Izzy? We already did, but I just wanted to double check.
I think this will also get Izzy to yell at us, which I think is
true.
worthwhile.
True. No, that is actually the best reason to keep it as it is.
T-Ball is probably not better than Izzy as a player, but I
true.
do think the team is better.
That's true. Yeah, I think this.
I mean, I think they're very close. I just think Izzy's has a little bit more room to fail.
That's true.
Happens.
I think Palkia really surprised me because when I was like watching Palkia draft, I think I like mostly when I paid attention to the draft, I was seeing the lower tier teams pick, like the ones that were rating in C tier. And in fairness, I think they have more C tier. Let me go pull up Dialga so we can do a comparison since that's interesting on its own right. I believe that this okay, actually never mind, the distributions are very similar. Oh, wrong thing. There we go. Yeah, I'd say overall, yeah, it's just undeniable Palkia did do better drafting if we look at these two compared. I think that's fair, and I think that's true. Which surprises me because I thought Palkia was actually doing worse, but I guess that was just my bias.
You're biased. You're so true. Biased. Look at these tier lists.
I am maximally biased.
You have your team as first in Dialga, and you have the team you helped the most with in Palkia.
Yeah, well, what can I say? I am the most biased man alive. Please spam that in chat. All right, I think that covers everything. I don't think we have anything else to talk about. Any final notes?
Okay. Final notes.
Ray J,
my name has been Shronky Kong this whole time.
Whoa. Yeah, sorry, you kept saying radio. I think it's just like because you guys sound so similar,
Yeah, that's
no
true.
worries.
Yeah,
It happens.
Yeah.
Just make sure that when you see him, you tell radio about this.
Yeah, I'll say, hey, radio, where were you? Shrunky showed up on time and didn't have to go to bed or go to a family event. So yeah, it was really nice for you to be here.
Yeah, no problem. I would never miss something like this. That would be a really uncool Shrunky move.
You're literally the owner of CPC. Like, of course you'd be here,
yeah,
right?
Also really funny. I think that the divisions were really close. Like, I thought T-Ball being here because you were just really tired last time, Shrunky. I don't think you talked a lot. So I thought T-Ball being here would add more time. It only added like 9 more minutes.
Yeah.
Well, it worked out.
Yippee! All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.